In this video, I'll walk you through how to manipulate strings using built-in methods. Let's get started. Now, Python has lots and lots of string methods that are built-in, which means that they come with Python itself, so we don't have to create the code, the functions for them. They're already created. And they can be used to manipulate strings and get your desired results without having to change the string value every time. That means that you can use a method to change a string to uppercase without having to manually look for the string in your variables and then change its value. So that makes it a lot more easier. Now, note that string methods return new values. They don't change the previous ones. First of all, we've got the capitalize method. And here, the first character is changed to uppercase and the rest to lowercase. So let's say we have a variable called course equals the Techteks Python course is outstanding. And we print course.capitalize, don't forget the parentheses, and you close the bracket. We get the first T is capital and every other character in the string is lowercase. Next up, we have the R-index or the R-find method. Now, this searches for a specified character in a string and it returns its last index. So this means that the last index of where that character has been found in the string. So what that means is that, for example, in a string like course equals the Techteks Python course is outstanding, there are many T's in here. But what it does is that it prints out, it gives you the index, the position of the last T, of the last character that you specify, which is T in this case, of the last T in that string. And the last T here is the last T in the outstanding. So, and that position is 34, so it outputs 34. Our partition or partition method. This splits the string into 3 parts to create a tuple. So again, let's say we have a string in a variable called course. So the string says the Techteks Python course is outstanding. So we can split the string into 3 items in one tuple. So let's say I wanted to split the string at text. So that text remains the middle, which is the second with index 1. It remains the item in the middle. So the first part becomes the first item and the last part, the part after that specified value becomes the third item in the tuple. Next up, we have the R split or the split method. So what this does is that it splits the string at a specified character and makes a list. So not a tuple this time. So it basically works just like the partition one, but this time it brings it out as a list. And the fact is here, it doesn't have to be 3 items. So here, whatever value you put in as an argument for the method, what it's going to do is that, for example, the argument here is text, then it takes the text out and then just creates 2 items here using the values before the text and the values after the text. So text does not even appear here. Next up, we have the R strip. Now this works very similar to the strip, but this time it only deletes the space character on the right end. So it only deletes the last white spaces. It doesn't do anything, doesn't tamper with the first white spaces. So for example here, after the Techteks Python course is outstanding, we have spaces. So in the output, using course.rstrip, don't forget the parentheses, in the output, what it does is that it just removes the last white spaces. It keeps the first one. So what we get is space, the Techteks Python course is outstanding, and then it deletes the last couple of spaces, the last couple of white spaces. Now, as you can imagine, there's also the L strip. So works very much like the R strip, but this time it just does it on the left hand. So it just does it with the first white spaces. So this time, if I have lots and lots of white spaces and I have the Techteks Python course is outstanding, and I do course, which is the name of the variable, .l strip, what it does is that it removes all the white spaces in the front. The Techteks Python course is outstanding, but the last couple of white spaces still remain. They're still there. So it only tampers with the first couple, with the left-sided one. Next up, we have the split lines method, which splits the string when a new line begins, and so breaks it into a list. So if I move on to the new line inside a string, so it literally puts line 1 as item 1 in the list, line 2 as item 2 in the list. So again, course, the Techteks Python moves on to a new line, course is outstanding. So when you print out course that split lines, it has the Techteks Python as item 1, which with index 0. Always remember that the first item in a list or tuple or whatever it is always index 0. And then the second item with the index 1 is course is outstanding. So when I'm in index, just to note, the index is what the computer knows as a position number. So what we would see is the Techteks Python is item 1, course is outstanding is item 2. But the computer does not see it like that. The first item will always be index 0, and the second one is 1, the third one is 2, the fourth one is 3, like that. So it just keeps going on. Next up, we have the start with method. Now this checks if the string starts with the specified character and it returns a bool, which is either true or false. So let's say print course dot starts with T. So if it starts with T, then it gives me true. If you put in, let's say, H or another character, it's going to give you false. Next up, we have the swap case method. And what it literally does is that it swaps the case of the letters in the string. This means that it swaps the uppercases to lower cases and the lower cases to upper cases. So, for example, in the string course equals Techteks, Python course is outstanding. It has a mix of uppercases and lower cases. So when we put print course.swapcase and don't forget the parentheses, what it does is that it swaps the capital letters in there, like the capital T's and Techteks, and it swaps them to a lowercase, and it swaps the lower cases, like Python course is outstanding, it swaps them to upper cases. So it does the opposite to every character. Next up, we have the title method, and this converts the next letter after a space character, which in essence is the first letter of each word in a string, and it converts it into a capital letter or uppercase. So we have the Techteks Python course is outstanding. So when we print course.title, and don't forget the parentheses again. So what it gives us is the capital letter T, Techteks capital letter T, Python capital letter P, course capital letter C, is capital letter I, outstanding capital letter O. Now note that every other character will be lowercase. So the only characters that are uppercase are the characters that is after a space, which is the first letter of each word. Next up, we have the upper method, and this is quite simple. It simply just converts the letters in the string to uppercase. So it converts every single character, every single letter in the string to uppercase. And we have the opposite, which is lower or casefold method. And what it does is that it converts the string into lowercase. So it converts every single letter, every single character into lowercase. Next up, we've got the Z fill method, and what it does is that it adds as many zeros at the front of the string to make it the specified length. So let's say I have a string equals to 112. Note that this is not a number, it is a string because it's got quotes around them. So, and we print string.zfill 10. Now 10 is the number is the length of the string, is what we want the length of the string to be. So what zfill does is that it adds as many zeros to the front of that string at the start of that string to make it that specified length. And it's really useful if you don't know the length of a string and you need to like access an index in it. It makes it a lot easier. The isDigit method. Now, if the characters in the string are digits, then a bool, which is either true or false, is returned. So string equals to 12. Obviously 12 is a digit, so string.isDigit will give you true. Now the isIdentifier method. What this does is that it outputs true if the string can be used as a valid identifier. So if it can be used as a variable name, as a function name, as a class, module, or any other object, then it is true. And this is a great way to check if a value or set of characters that you want to use for a variable, to check if it can actually be used for a variable or a function name. And more about functions will be coming in upcoming videos. Now let's say we've got course equals underscore the underscore techteks underscore course. Now that isn't allowed, that is a valid variable name, that is a valid function name. So course.isIdentifier will give us true. But let's create another variable called second course. And let's start this one with a number. Let's say 2 techteks at course. Now, when we start with a number, it's not allowed, it's not valid, it can't be used as an identifier, so we get false. Next up, we have is lower, and this is very simple. All it does is that it outputs a bool, which is true or false, depending on whether all letters in the string are in lowercase. So what you can do here is, if you're not sure, but you want it to be true, you want the letters in the string to be lowercase, then just put the name of the variable dot lower, which changes it to lowercase first, and then dot is lower, which confirms that it is lowercase. The is upper method. So this works exactly like the is lower, but this time it only outputs a bool if the string are in uppercase, if the letters in the strings are in uppercase. So very similar to the is lower. Now the is numeric method. So this outputs true or false depending on whether all the characters in the string are numbers. So if all the characters in the string are numbers, then it returns true when you put the name of the variable. Dot is numeric. Next up we have is printable. So this outputs true or false depending on whether all the characters in the string are printable. So if your string's got something like a /t or /n or something that does something to the string rather than actually being printed out of the part of the string, then it is going to be false because it cannot be printed with the string. So in this case, we've got /t in the course variable in the string. So that means that it is false. Not everything inside the string can actually be printed, so it's false. So isSpace method is actually very useful because it's really useful in telling you whether a string is empty or not. So it outputs true or false depending on whether all characters in a string are white spaces. So if it's all white spaces, if it's empty, then it outputs true, and if it's not, it outputs false. Now, isTitle outputs true or false, depending on whether the first letters of every word are uppercases. So it outputs true if every letter after a space is capital letter, is uppercase, then it outputs true. But again, another way to do this is that you can have the string and then change it to a title. So change every first letter of every word, change it to capital letter, and then you can use is title to confirm. So in this case, we get true because we already changed it using the title method. And now we're using is title to check it. Is alpha output a true or false, depending on whether all the characters in the string are letters of the alphabet? So in this one where we have a readable text, which is the Techteks Python course is outstanding, there are white spaces in there, so it's not all alphabets. So we therefore get false. But in the second variable, we get course equals the Techteks Python course is outstanding, but this time there are no white spaces in there, so it gives us true because it's only the letters of the alphabet in that string. Is alnum output a true or false, depending on whether all the characters in the string are alphanumeric? Note that white spaces are neither letters nor numbers. So if there's a white space in a string, then it's automatically false. It can only be true when they're letters and numbers only. Now the format method formats specified values in a string. So it's an alternative to f-string, but I think f-string is way better to use for me personally. Now, let's say we have a variable called student name and we have inside it Ruth Naomi. And we've got score 1 and score 2 equals 20 and 30. So score 1 is 20 and score 2 is 30. And score 3 we've got 50. And we've got a total score which is score 1 plus score 2 plus score 3, which is 100. But we don't really have to calculate that. The computer does it for us. So let's say we've got final score equals, in our string, we have final score 4. We want to put the name of Ruth Naomi, but let's just keep it as name inside curly braces, is total, which is score 1 plus score 2 plus score 3, but we haven't referenced that yet. So let's just put total with a colon and .3f, which means that we want it to three decimal places. So let's print final score dot format. So we have to replace the name with the student name, which means name equals student name, and the total with total score, which we already calculated. So we have to replace them. So what we get is final score for Ruth Naomi is 100.000. 0.000 is because we said we wanted it to .3f, which is to three decimal places. But it's so much easier to use the f string that we learned in the last video. The find or index method checks the string for a specified value or character and returns the position or the index of the character or the value in the string. So what it basically does is that you tell it what character in the string that you want the position of, and it tells you what position it's in. So for example, here, and what it does is it tells you the first position. So that means that you can have multiple of that character, but it tells you the first position. So in this string, we have the Techteks Python course is outstanding. Now we have course.find E. Now note that there's so many E's in this string, but it returns the first one, which is the position 2 in the. Now the end with method. This is very similar to the start with one, but what it does this time is that it just checks if the string ends with a specified character. So in this case, we want to check if the course, which contains the string, the Techteks Python course is outstanding. We want to check if it ends with G, and in this case, yes, it does. G is the end of outstanding, so it is true. Remember, if there's a white space after G in the string, then it does not count. At that point, it's going to be the white space ending the string, not the G. So you have to be careful with that. Next up, we have the count method, and this does a fairly simple job. So what it does is that it outputs the number of times that a specified value or character occurs in a string. So in this variable, we have a string, and in the string there's so many capital T's, so all I just have to do is course.count T, and make sure that you've put quotes around the T's. because it's a string. So we're looking for how many t's is inside the string, and there's 3 of them. So it's fairly simple. So the center method, this returns a center string. So it places the string value in the center with an equal number of white spaces on either side. So let's say I put print course.center 50. So what I want is 50 characters, but I want the main characters that were inside the string, I want them in the middle, and then the remaining number of characters are white spaces on either end, so they're equally spaced on either end. So let's say you've got 6 characters inside your string, and you specify that you want it to be centered within 8 characters. So let's say you put course.center 8, and the string has got 6 characters. Then you've got 1 space on either side, the string, and then the last space on the other side. So they're equally split. And this is really useful for writing things like titles to make them centered, or things like subtitles. They're really useful for that, to have padded text. So a little detail that we notice across all the methods is that any method that has is before something and then parentheses as its function name always returns either true or false. So what it does, most of them, what they do is that they check and then reply to you if it's true or false. They don't do anything more than that. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in 2 weeks.